We all know that Hunter x Hunter has some amazing writing, and one of the biggest strengths of its storytelling is how smoothly the plot progresses. Starting at the Hunter exam, we eventually go to unexpected places like a video game island or an ant-infested corrupt country, while having this feel like a completely natural course of events within the story. While there is a lot to be said about how we go from arc to arc, what I want to talk about today is how Hunter x Hunter gets the characters it needs into the position they are needed in for the narrative of every arc to work. Crazy, I know. The author Togashi does this by using two simple tricks. The first being to come up with settings where it would make sense for exceptional individuals to show up, and the second is to establish character motivations so meticulously that the characters absolutely need to be in the spot the narrative can make the best use out of them. That was two mouthfuls. To make this more clear, let's first do a quick overview of the various Hunter x Hunter arcs. The Hunter exam, the York New auctions, Greed Island, the Chairman election and the Dark Continent journey. All of these settings have one thing in common, namely the fact that all of them are tied to plot points that are centered around bringing characters that are larger than life together. Only 1 in 10,000 people get to participate in the Hunter exam, so it only makes sense a bunch of talented specialists at the pinnacle of their craft will participate. Local does not fit this description. Greed Island can only be visited by hunters, either hunters who passed Cisgara's processing exam, those with enough money or influence to obtain the Greed Island game for themselves, or those powerful enough to steal it. The main draw for many players here is the rewards for beating the game, which allures characters like Bisky or Cisgara. Then there is the Chairman election, which was a call to all hunters, and those who care about Netero or the association are usually the stronger ones, like Morel and Nov. Or you got someone like Hisoka showing up here to scout his future prey. Netero's will also forced all the Zodiacs, including Ging, to show up. The most respectable hunter in the world dying is one good reason to bring Ging into the story. Gon's condition was also a reason for some of the characters to be around, like the aforementioned Nov and Morel, but also Killua and Leorio. The Dark Continent journey in the current arc will have any hunter interested. The same goes for all the influential people in the world who want in on the journey. And with those people around, that gives a good reason for some bad guys to join the boat trip as well. Then there's the York New auctions, where there is a big chance criminals will show up, which means the Mafia would hire some assassins to protect themselves. So as you can see, every arc is constructed so that the setting will attract the cool characters that we follow. You can also think about how the story even gets the characters to want to go to York New. Hisoka tells Kurapika that he knows the Phantom Troop will show up in York New on September 1st. Why does Hisoka know this? Well, he's a powerful and mysterious dude. So it's not that weird that he has some information on the troop. Later on, the pieces fall into place when we found out Hisoka is a spider himself, but that doesn't matter yet at this point of the story. A situation like this needs to make sense both before the reveal of the mystery and after the reveal of the mystery, and I think that with Hisoka here, it works. With Hisoka being such a crazy killer clown, it's not hard to believe he'd have some information on some other deranged killers. So yeah. The cool thing is that York New's relevance to the main characters doesn't end here, because you also got Gon and Killua who are searching for a rare, almost legendary Greed Island game. And naturally, that would be sold at an auction such as those in York New. Everything just always lines up. Seamlessly. Seamless. With the basics down, let's go into more detail by going in depth for a specific arc. Like, let's take Heaven's Arena. After the Hunter exam is done, and Killua has been safely extracted from the Zodiac mansion, the dynamic duo of Gon and Kill go to the Heaven's Arena. In the previous arc, one of the main problems Gon was facing was his lack of strength, and not just during his fight with Hanzo, but most of all against the wicked clown Hisoka. Killua was also insecure about his strength before, and after being saved, he has realized he does not mind Gon being on his level, so you might as well support him so they can both be on equal levels. So where does Killua take Gon? To the Heaven's Arena, wow! Wait, why does Killua even know about Heaven's Arena? Oh, because his assassin parents with a strict training regimen, which has been established beforehand, sent him there to train as but a wee lad. This information also tells us how Killua obtained more of his battle experience, and hammers down the fact that he had a pretty not good childhood, to say the least. Why didn't Killua go past the 200th floor where there's Nen users? Well, just think about the interactions we see Killua have with Nen during the Hunter exam. Killua does not handle people that hold an unknown power over him well. And there's also the fact that he was allowed home once he reached floor 200. So he might as well return home, right? Killua is a softie at heart. As for why Killua didn't know Nen before through his family, that's a whole other topic that I will not discuss today. So yeah, Killua went to the Heaven's Arena before. This established information also makes it so Togashi has a familiar character ready to explain things about Heaven's Arena to Gon and to us the readers at the start of the arc. So with Gon wanting to become stronger and Killua knowing a place for good but sad reasons, the story got the perfect motivation for the characters to go to Heaven's Arena. However, one more reason, Killua wasn't able to sneak past the Zodiac money vault when he left the mansion to grab some cash. So we are broke boys right now. Luckily, Heaven's Arena allows us to make a good buck. And that is yet another additional reason for us to go to Heaven's Arena, where fighting gets you paid. So much characterization and history interwoven into why the story could go to Heaven's Arena, while having it make sense for our main characters to do that, and for the reader to believe it. Believe it, date bayo! So yeah, now we're chilling at Heaven's Arena, and what? Hisoka's here? Why? Well, why not? He explains it himself. If anyone in the story so far would be present at Heaven's Arena, it would be the battle-obsessed Hisoka. This is an excellent opportunity for the story to grab the unresolved Gon vs Hisoka plotline from the Hunter exam and make good use out of that. And as we all know, it sure as heck does. But to be fair, Hisoka also just wanted to fight the boys and make sure that they would turn out alright. That's the whole point of Hisoka not letting the boys onto the 200th floor, or else they would end up like the guys that the boys do fight there. Hisoka outright helping Gon, and people will still say Hisoka is the mentor character. And as for Hisoka's motivations, I haven't even mentioned he has his own storyline to fight Castro, which gives him the reason to be at Heaven's Arena too. It would be a little silly if he was only there for the boys, you know? And speaking of mentor characters, it's also not far-fetched to believe that a Nen teacher with their student would use the lower floors of Heaven's Arena as a training ground. Bam! Enter Wing and Zushi, who also add to the story as a mentor to the boys and as a measuring stick, respectively. The Hunter Association hiring and monitoring the various Hunter applicants on their way to learning Nen is also set up in advance, with Sato stating at the end of the Hunter exam that it's not quite over. The secret second Hunter exam where you learn Nen. Since you don't become a full-fledged Hunter until learning Nen, it makes sense that there is some kind of final test to get the chance to be able to obtain the privilege to learn how to use it. Hunter x Hunter makes it seem like all of these coincidences couldn't have happened any other way and are completely justified. This makes the story feel cohesive and realistic. There are also cases where character motivations are what makes unexpected situations feel expected. Bars. Like this example from the start of the Succession War arc. Shortly after the Zodiacs are introduced, two unforeseen things happen. First is that two members of the Zodiac leave, namely Ging Freaks and Pariston. Looking at how these two characters have been portrayed so far, it makes sense they both left. Both Ging and Pariston care about Netero, but not necessarily about the Zodiac or the Hunter Association. Ging frequently skips out on Zodiac meetings, and Pariston is seen disagreeing with the Zodiac throughout the entire arc. Also, consider how these two are the only Zodiac members who don't dress up like their assigned animal. So yeah, we only just knew about this group, but we're already losing two members now. The second surprising thing that happens is that Leorio and Kurapika replace the two Zodiac members who left. Even though nobody could have predicted this happening, the way this plot beat was written made the unexpected feel seamless. When you start reading chapter 343, you might be surprised at how quickly the plot progresses, with Leorio picking up his phone and him suddenly being asked to become a Zodiac member, him saying yes, and eventually Kurapika also joining him to become the new Boar and Red. But as to be expected with Hunter x Hunter, this too has solid setup. The building blocks had already been placed in the prior election arc. What are the most important things we learn about Leorio during this arc that matter for the rest of the story? Yes, he still likes Gon a lot, but let's look at what is new. In Leorio's first scene in the arc, we see that he misses Kurapika, just as much as we the readers do. That's one. Punching Ging gets Leorio a legion of supporters who like him even after the election is done. Furthermore, he also becomes well liked by Cheadle and even Ging himself. As we know, Pariston and Ging leave the Zodiacs later, and with Pariston being elected for the role of chairman, but immediately stepping down, that means the new leader of the Hunter Association is now Cheadle, who happens to be a doctor as well, a job that Leorio aspires to have. Cheadle went as far as stating during the election that Leorio could be a great chairman if she were his advisor. After thoroughly considering Leorio's positive qualities, and wanting to increase the approval rate for the Hunter Association, since with the popular Pariston gone, the association isn't getting as much respect as they used to, it is no wonder she asked Leorio to be part of the Zodiac group, with a great bargaining chip of allowing Leorio to continue his doctor studies while on board of the boat, accompanied by some of the greatest doctors in the world, including herself. Hard to say no to that. So one Zodiac spot has been filled, but it happens that there are two spots left empty, and not just one. Wait. Who was Leorio trying to contact at the start of the arc again? Our boy Kurapika! Leorio would want a trustworthy person to join him on this scary trip, with this group he isn't super familiar with yet. Sadly though, Kurapika's in his emo mode, and understandably so, since he has been hunting the scarlet eyes of his brethren in the meantime. So Kurapika won't join the trip? Well, aside from Leorio, Chido and Pariston, there was one more chairman election finalist who got a character established in preparation for this arc. The crime hunter, Mizaisto. What would get Kurapika's ass on the ship if not for the Scarlet Eyes themselves? So yeah, through Mizaistom's crime hunter connections, he knows that there will be an owner of Scarlet Eyes in a boat going towards the Dark Continent. The fourth prince of Kaken, Teritnich. Is this a sloppy writing choice of just happening to have a rich prince on the boat to lure Kurapika into joining the Zodiac? Nah. It has already been established that the Dark Continent trip is sponsored by the country of Kaken. And what's a better publicity stunt than the king himself boarding the boat with all his children and wives? Just like the Hunter exam in Half Serena and all the other arcs before this, it makes sense that the boat toward the Dark Continent will be full of interesting individuals, especially rich influential people who want to take the claim of the new continent. And that's not even mentioning how Charidnich and his brothers and sisters become very important in the succession war as well. And is it really so unexpected that a rich prince in a decently corrupt country, who has nothing better to do, would score himself a pair of Scarlet Eyes? Those Scarlet Eyes cost a pretty penny too, so it makes sense someone of royalty could afford a pair. So all in all, Leorio and Kurapika joining the elite Zodiac is done through very deliberate writing choices, making the sequence of events feel organic and seamless. It's all about them building blocks. You know what? I'll do one more for y'all. But you gotta like and subscribe for this one. It's like how you need to make a vow for your Nen power to grow stronger. Yes. Okay, so our favorite older brother Illumi is usually a recluse, who only goes outside for work and otherwise is at home 24/7. He's just like us. However, when the story needs him, Togashi is still able to get him out there to do what is necessary for the story to continue. For the Hunter exam, the story makes Illumi's participation feel especially natural because he is there since he needs a license for his job. Killua was not his primary motivation for entering the exam, nor is it the reason for him at all. If Killua did not exist, Illumi would have joined the exam regardless. He says so himself. His mother asked him to check upon Killua, but he did not expect him to be at the Hunter exam. So is it actually Killua who was shoehorned into the story? Nah, not really. Killua had a rough childhood, and he ties his self-worth mostly to strength at this point because of it. For a kid like this, it makes sense he would take the Hunter exam to further pump up his ego and feel better about himself. And also to just get away from his abusive household, since he's actually a soft boy on the inside. And he also stabbed his mother before coming here, so yeah. So at the exam, Killua does exactly what I said. Further pump up his ego, toying around with anyone he faces and acting like he is too cool to care about others. Like when he tells Gon not to worry about Kurapika and Leorio lagging behind in the first phase of the exam. This is a little bit of an exaggeration, but Killua might have dropped out of the exam on his own, out of boredom, if he didn't see the opportunity to make a friend in Gon, since that is what he really wanted to get out of the exam at the end of it. Sorry for that whole tangent, but yeah. For Illumi, it makes sense that he is at the exam. He even seems to have become acquainted with Hisoka before then, Hisoka who failed the exam a year earlier, so perhaps he saw an opportunity to easily pass the exam this year with his work partner on his side. Work partners. They are acquaintances and nothing more. That aside, so what is the second time Illumi pops out on his own terms? Aha! It's the election arc. Well, okay. The elections happening and Killua needing to save Gon both stem from the same event. The war against the Chimera ants. Netero died, Gon almost died. So these two events have no reason to not take place at the same time, right? That's good. Furthermore, strong hunters gathering for the election would also lure out Hisoka, since he likes strong people. And since Illumi is a hunter too, the election grounds become a natural meeting place for the two. The only thing Illumi cares as much about as his job is his family. And in a serious situation where multiple family members oppose him and put his other family members at risk, it makes sense for Illumi to go all out, even reuniting with his killer clown ally. It just so happens that Illumi is the worst kind of hunter. So him having a legitimate reason to fuck shit up and kill a bunch of people as a hunter is the perfect setup for some hunter politicians to spread their viewpoints on changing the hunter exam and the hunter bylaws. A good controversy goes a long way when it comes to politics. But of course, these politicians mingling with business they don't have anything to do with doesn't go so well for them. Don't rely on controversy, my political candidate viewers. Wink! All in all these situations where Illumi plays an important role are written in a way where Illumi absolutely needs to be present for what is going down. It makes sense when he's there, and also when he isn't, since there are no assassination jobs on Greed Island or in NGL. Illumi is cool. I like him. As for Illumi coming out during York New arc, both times it was just for his job. As for him coming out for the Dark Continent arc, that's also just for his job. Hisoka hired him. One final character I quickly want to mention is Bisky. It makes complete sense that she went to Greed Island. Since she is a hunter, she knew about the Blue Planet Gem, and it makes sense that a treasure like that would be on Greed Island in the first place. And as we know by now, powerful hunters gathering on Greed Island, in general, makes sense. But then, in the Chimera Ant arc, the story cheats this entire concept I've been talking about by introducing Palm. This is the only time it happens though, as far as I'm aware. Palm is introduced, who has the Nen ability to find exactly what the story needs. So she summons Bisky real quick to train the boys. How Palm's Hutsu is used within the story can be described as literally finding a solution to the problem that she and the plot face, in return for a blood sacrifice. We need Bisky back in the story, so how do we find her? Palm just uses her Hutsu to find her and contacts her. Wow, how convenient, how convenient. The best part is that Palm only uses this ability once before her Hutsu gets changed when she becomes a Chimera Ant. So the ability was really put into the story to be used once just to get Bisky back for a bit. And also for a gag later on, I guess. Thinking about this did make me realize that Palm's change of personality and ability is pretty cool though. Where her original ability to follow people first gets used as a method to stalk, but once she gets turned into a Chimera Ant and Killua helps her connect back with her emotions, she uses her new stalking ability instead to protect her friends. Such a beautiful tale. You could also take a look at other characters popping up at certain other locations, and even more so, characters not appearing in certain arcs, like Leorio and Kurapika going off on their own for most of the series, since the story doesn't require them and they got their own dreams. But yeah, I'm done. Subscribe and like. Bye bye. Wow.